Welcome to the Mints to Win It podcast. I'm Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. Taking a look at today's Monday NBA slate, and looks like a good one. You're looking at Vegas totals here, and obviously OKC and Washington are the big one, 222 total. There's a 9.5 point spread there. Thunder are favorite at home, but not really concerned there. You're looking at a pretty big total, just like that Houston OKC game. So definitely an area to attack tonight. Um, there's three other games that are really in good spots as far as Vegas goes. Sacramento, Milwaukee, 214, Indiana, Cleveland, 210, and Denver, Toronto, 207. Um, you're looking at San Antonio, Orlando, Brooklyn, and Detroit, and New Orleans, Memphis. They all have ones over 200, but not as attractive as the other ones, especially the Spurs being 16-point favorites. That's your blowout concern tonight. So I'm really staying away from that game in cash. It's pretty much in GPPs as well, just because of the other games. So um, that one's looking like a complete fade for me. Utah and Chicago, that's your lowest total of the night, and Chicago just has a 94 team total. Them and Orlando have the lowest totals on the night, so two teams that aren't really on my radar, just with how big the slate is. So if you're looking at going ahead at point guards, obviously Russell Westbrook is your top option tonight, but he is pricey. In a good spot, again, coming off a nice double-double, 26, 14, and 10. Guy just consistently gets it done night in and night out, so always an option, a safe option. I really do like Kyle Lowry for a nice little discount there, averaging 21, 5, and 5. I guess you can call him a poor man's Russell Westbrook. Even when he doesn't shoot the ball, he's always in play with assists and steals. He's averaging 2 steals a game over the last five. So, um, for a discount, I do like Lowry tonight. I think he's your clear-cut number two option, come the end of the night for fantasy points scored. But um, he does have the best matchup on the slate for me. So I do like Lowry. Looking elsewhere, there aren't a ton of injuries. Actually, I mean, Jarrett Jack's the only one, but we've been talking about him. It's just Matt Donald, Sloan, and Shane Larkin, but neither I want a piece of against Reggie Jackson. So um, it's pretty easy night for injuries go. So you're looking at other guys here. Rajon Rondo, just a GPP play tonight, tougher matchup, but does have triple double upside. I think he's a sneaky play, definitely going to be low owned. I think you're going to see Kyle Lowry, Drew Holiday, and Westbrook kind of be the more popular plays. Um, Looking at other guys, Reggie Jackson, he is in play tonight for tournaments. Cheaper price tag, does have upside. Been struggling a little bit of late, but we have seen him put up that 40 plus fantasy point upside. Gets a great matchup against Brooklyn, who rank in the bottom 10 against defending point guards. So um, it could be a nice points per dollar play come the end of the night. If you're looking at cheaper guys, there are some cheaper guys with upside. Obviously, Michael Carter Williams. Minutes have been a little inconsistent again. 26 and 27 in the last two games. He did produce, went 31 fantasy points in 26 minutes against Miami, um, but then struggled the two before that. So definitely just a GPP play. I like Kyrie Irving tonight, despite the tougher matchup. He's been playing better. Um, 30 fantasy points in three of the last four games. So I've been shooting the ball well, over 50% in the last two. I do like him in this matchup, even though it's a little bit tougher. That total is pretty high. Looking at cheaper options, even cheaper than those, Jeff Teague, great play tonight, great value, especially in cash games. Not sure he has GPP upside, but points per dollar wise, he's going to get you around 25 to 30 fantasy points. So solid matchup against Dallas. I like that one, even though it's a lower total game compared to the others. Still some great plays in that one. If you're going any lower than that, I can't see anyone that really stands out to me. Emmanuel Mudiay, tougher matchup in that same price tag. I'd rather just go to Jeff Teague. I think Tony Parker in the blowout concern, he's not really in play for me. So I think that's probably about as low as you're going with Jeff Teague there. Looking at other options, there's a lot of guys in the 6K range. There's better value at other positions tonight. Looking at shooting guard, not a spot I'm really going to pay up for tonight, but DeMar DeRozan, always in playing GPPs with his upside and playing well. Decent cash game option, but I think you're just kind of going to spend your money elsewhere tonight. Averaging 24, 3, and 3 over the last five games, shooting the ball well from three, 57%. Of course, this Denver backcourt's horrendous, so attacking with Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan's a good strategy tonight, but definitely a cheaper alternative to the other big stars. So I think more of a contrarian move, if anything. Looking at other options, Chris Middleton, by far my favorite shooting guard tonight. Yeah, he's a little pricey, but guy's been really consistent. 18, 5, and 5 over the last 5 games, despite not shooting the ball entirely well like he was earlier. Just 36% in that span, but of course, playing Sacramento, they've allowed the second most fantasy points per game to opposing shooting guards. Definitely going to be in play. Put up 21, 2, and 6 against them earlier this season, just 24 minutes. So if he sees around his usual 36 minutes per game, he's going to have a nice stat line coming out of the night. Monta Ellis, I mean, back-to-back 50 burgers. This is a little rare for me. I was not expecting that. 8 steals in the last 2 games, 6 assists in each of those, and been scoring points. I mean, 32 and 25 real points in that span. Tougher matchup against Cleveland, but I mean, the way he's attacking, the way that total lines up tonight, I still think he's a nice GPP play, but I do think he's going to be a bit higher owned than just over the recent stretch just because of recency bias. But I definitely will have a couple shares, but I'm not incredibly high on him again. I don't see 50 plus coming again, but he did that to me last game, so I'm not sure. Will Barton, another good GPP play. Yes, he struggled against Indiana. The minutes were down 17 minutes. Just wasn't really effective. But you're looking at games before that, 24, 37, 38, and decent matchups. So for that price tag, I still think he's worth a shot in GPPs, but he definitely can be a bust at times, and the minutes can be a little bit inconsistent, so there is some risk there. If you're looking at cheaper guys tonight, I really like Raymond Felton. There's no Harris there. He's ruled out tonight. Saw 35 minutes last game. 25, 35, 27, 34. So the minutes have been there. Been pretty consistent with producing 32, 15, 22, and 15, 30 there. So not a bad option for his price. I think the matchup's solid against the Hawks there, who kind of struggled defensively. Definitely in play tonight just because shooting guard's not really a strong position. If you're looking at anyone cheaper, if Tyreke Evans sits tonight, Bryce Eugene-Jones. I mean, the guy's played 36 and 35 minutes. He is the guy at shooting guard when Evans is out. Been really consistent in those 2 games, 8 and 9, 14, 2 and 2. He's nabbed 3 steals in those 2 games. So, I mean, 22 and 26 points for near bare minimum is great value. And he also opens up a ton of salary relief, which is kind of his main factor. So, I think you're looking to pay up for Middleton, DeRozan in tournaments. Looking elsewhere, it's those mid-range guys are definitely not guys I want to play tonight. I think you'd rather pay lower. Moving over to small forward, Durant is your top option. I mean, it's pretty clear right now. I mean, 32, 9, and 5 on average over the last 5 games. I mean, let's not forget, I mean, the guy went 14, 10, and 4 against Washington earlier this season in just 16 minutes. So he was headed well for a 60 burger that night. And against Washington, they're the worst team against small forwards defensively. So great matchup for him tonight. And I'm all over him at home. I think he's the guy I'd rather have. Kind of like how Westbrook was the other night. Both in play, definitely. They both have huge upsides. So I do think a lineup with both of them is really, really heightening your ceiling there. So definitely keep that in consideration. LeBron James and Paul George, I mean, these guys do have upside. They're playing each other. They've kind of battled each other before. I like Paul George for a little bit cheaper. I mean, the guy does have tremendous upside. He has a bit of a more of a usage rate than LeBron does, even though they're pretty close to the same. But I just think he takes over the game a little bit more when it matters. So definitely in play for 1,000 less. But those two are definitely contrarian plays for me. Kawhi Leonard, kind of not in play for me tonight just because of the blowout factor. Not really worth the price. We've seen it really in his game logs of tons of blowout games where he's only accumulating 25 to 35 fantasy points. So at that price tag, I think there's better options for lower. Giannis, one of my favorite GPP plays tonight, has big upside, been playing really well, kind of almost consistent enough for cash, but that's tough for me to call. It's just walking a fine line because we've seen him get into foul trouble before, seen him put up a few duds. So but the guy definitely does have upside, averaging 17, 6, and 3 over the last 5 games, shooting the ball very well, 57% from the field. Of course, gets a nice matchup against Sacramento, who have a lot of the most points per game, scoring wise, and they rank first in pace in the league. So this one's definitely going to be a nice high scoring game. And you always like Sacramento, but you always like the guys on the other side as well. Looking at cheaper options in that mid range, you like Chandler Parsons, who just continues to be producing, kind of creeping up in price, but still finds himself in that 30 fantasy point range night in and night out. So I do like him. Um, Cousins was iffy tonight. If Cousins does sit, really like Rudy Gay, who plays well without Cousins. He becomes more of a part of the offense, especially for that price tag in this matchup. I think he's kind of a contrarian play anyway if Cousins plays, just because, I mean, coming off the last 2 games there, he's been really, really solid. The games he's actually played as well when not missing time, but you're looking at 38, 35, 44, 31, and 42 in DK points over the last 5-6 games. So nice matchup for that price tag tonight. Definitely will be a contrarian move to go. Looking cheaper, Aaron Gordon really exploded last night, but tougher matchup against San Antonio. I think I'll pass. Rather go with Jeff Green there, sitting at 5,300 on DK, averaging 24 and 1 over the last 5 games. Guy's shooting really efficient from the field, over 60% in the last 3 games, over 55 in the last 5. So, I mean, he's my top value option in small forward. I don't think it gets any better than that. Stanley Johnson is in play for me tonight. He's been kind of seeing a little bit more consistent minutes of late, 28, 30, 32. So it's starting to trend upward a little bit for the rookie. Still risky, but against Brooklyn, it's worth a shot in tournaments, I think. Guy's got decent upside. I mean, 20, 29, and 28 in the last 3 games in that span. So he's definitely a nice points per dollar play with some upside. Looking any lower than that, you're not going to find anyone. I still think small forward is pretty easy tonight. You just pay for Durant, or you kind of go in that mid range if you're trying to achieve a little bit of a balanced lineup. Looking at power forward, Cousins is questionable due to a sprained left ankle, so that is going to be one to keep an eye on tonight. It is risky, so hopefully we get that news earlier in the day, because that would shift around a ton of usage to other guys. You would see Willie Cauley-Stein slip in for bigger minutes. You would see Rudy Gay take on a more of a bigger role. I think you'd see Caspi kind of slip in there as well, and they'd move Gay to the 4. So that's definitely what could happen if Cousins sits. So definitely keep an eye on that situation. And Anthony Davis is in play tonight, but tough to pay up for that price. Was solid last game in his first game back, but I think you rather just want to pay up for guys like Westbrook, Lowry, Durant in that situation. So he's kind of off my radar, more of a tournament play. But if you can fit guys in around him and he fits into cash for you alongside Durant or so, it's not a bad option, especially against Memphis. They've struggled a little bit defensively, in 2 games. I mean, Davis has torched them for 19, 2, and 11 with 6 blocks. So he definitely has upside. I do really like Paul Millsap. He's kind of my favorite option of the day. Power forward, just real consistent. He did leave the game against Indy, played 13 minutes with that ankle injury, came back and played Miami in 36. So no real concern with the injury there for the ankles, but had a tougher matchup against Miami. But before that, I mean, the guy was consistently putting up 40 plus fantasy points on the night. So this guy all around is a great player. Dallas struggles to rebound the ball. Both teams struggle to rebound the ball. So there is some upside for rebounds in both those teams, those sides. So, but Millsap, I really like him defensively. I mean, the guy averages over 3.5 blocks plus steals per game. Dallas ranking the bottom 10 in steals allowed to power forward. So definitely it's going to give Paul Millsap his usual floor. So nice matchup against Dallas, who he dropped 50 fantasy points on earlier this season. But the guy's just been flat out consistent. If you're looking at other options, Derek Favors is kind of catching my eye as a GPP play just because he played bigger minutes last game. Still just 6,600 on DK. Put up 20 and 9 against Minnesota. Playing Chicago tonight. And you look at Utah, I mean, not a bad total, 98.75 at home against the Bulls, or coming off a back-to-back. So I think you could take some shots with the Utah big men. I prefer Gobert, but I think Favors is definitely in play at that price. If If you're looking cheaper, Ilyasova was questionable. Going to play tonight, and GPP play for me because we still have seen that upside, but we saw him be really consistent and then all of a sudden drop off to his usual self of late, especially with the minutes 27, 20, and 23 in the last 3 games. So the matchup's there against Brooklyn, but definitely just a GPP move, if anything. You rather take your shots with guys like Miles Turner and Jabari Parker, who are better value plays at power forward tonight. Mahimi's also out tonight. You saw Jordan Hill play a big game, 38 minutes, went 27 and 3 with 6 blocks. Tougher matchup against Cleveland. I'm not as high on the Indy front court as I have been in the past weeks, but against Cleveland with the minutes that's kind of shifted around and Mahimi out there going to play, I do like the total, so they're definitely still in play for me, but I would not be shocked if they kind of disappointed just a little bit. Came back down to life, you could say. If you're looking for cheaper options, there's not much down here. I mean, Anthony Tolliver wasn't played tonight at Philly, so was set, but thank God we don't have to go through that because he did play 35 minutes, but went 7.5 DK points, so that's not fun. Moving over to center, you look at your top guys. You like Andre Drummond tonight. Marc Gasol is questionable, so that would be something to keep an eye on. I think you like the New Orleans. You like Anthony Davis a little bit more. You kind of like everyone a little bit more when Gasol's out. It doesn't do much. I think you see Zach Randolph pick up more of the offensive slack. You see Conley take on more of a higher usage. So it would kind of open up a little bit more for the main role guys. I don't think there's anyone that value comes off the bench and really produces. So you're looking at just Conley, Randolph, Green, just more of the surrounding guys getting a higher usage rate. Brook Lopez coming up back-to-back big games, definitely has upside in this matchup. Drummond perceived to be a good fantasy defender, but not really. I mean, Detroit kind of lags down low. They have allowed some big points. Drummond's just kind of there for rebounds and putbacks and all that good stuff. But defensively, we've seen opposing centers kind of dominate and also take over, and they turned it into a battle down there because Lopez has averaged 17, 8, and 3 against Detroit with 4.5 blocks per game and 2 steals. So defensively, I mean, Lopez has really stepped up in these matchups before. Kind of a cheaper price on DK, just 7,400. Would be definitely be a contrarian move tonight. So I like him in tournaments, but if you're going, I like going cheaper in cash games just because you're paying up at other options. I like Rudy Gobert, averaging 11 and 12 over the last 4 games, shooting 60%. The blocks are there, 2.3 per game. Nice matchup against Chicago, who have struggled against centers. They rank in the bottom 10. The mints have been there, and even with Favors coming back, I mean, Rudy Gobert has looked just immensely better than was where he was at a little bit before earlier in the season. So I do think the upside's there for tournaments. I think the stability is there for cash games. I love that price for him. I love the matchup. He's kind of my preferred cheaper center, but I also like Zaza Pachulia, Miles Turner for a little bit cheaper. Zaza gets a great matchup against Atlanta. I mean, they've struggled hugely against centers this season. He's kind of a lock for a double-double tonight. Atlanta's allowed the 4th most fantasy points per game to opposing centers. Pachulia missed those games with the ankle injury, but has come back and put up 9 and 15 and 16 and 12 in the last 2. He's played over 30 minutes in each, so that's nice to see. I think he's my favorite points per dollar center tonight, especially because he does have pretty decent upside. He went 11 and 17 in the prior matchup against Atlanta, so with them ranking dead last in rebounding and Zaza kind of locking down a lot of boards, he's a nice play tonight. Nikola Jokic, the guy has huge upside. Finally saw big minutes, 35 against Indy, and he produced, 16, 11, and 2 with 5 steals in 35 minutes. Finally, we've seen him do this before. Washington and Boston, he only played 25 and 19 minutes, but 37 and 20 DK points. Atlanta played just 18 minutes and had 39 DK points. So, huge upside, great fantasy points per minute play. On DK, I don't mind him in cash. I think if you're rostering 2 centers, I think he's a solid play. On FanDuel, it's a little bit risky because I know the minutes have started to look better, but still, he can always kind of produce those games where he only plays 14 and 19 and the fantasy points aren't there. So it is a little risky, especially for that price. It's kind of on the rise. I think he's more reserved for GPPs. I'd rather pay up for Pachulia or even Valanciunas at a similar price tag. If you're looking lower, if you want to still go risky, get a different piece of that OKC Washington game. And his Cantor, I mean, identical lines in the last two games, 26 and 23 minutes, went 22 and 10, 23 and 10, 40 and 41 DK points. So definitely has huge upside. Big 222 total. Kind of a nice hedge off some of the other plays, or if you want to go a little bit cheaper at center and still try and get some upside. Definitely just a tournament play, not really a cash. I still think you rather sit in that 5 to 6K range for other guys. That's going to wrap it up here with the mints to win it. Check out dailyfantasycafe.com for all our great tools and content.